the honor of bringing on a very good friend of mine today, Toya Kaplan. Hi, Toya. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. Good to see you.
You too. I'm so excited about the time that we're going to get to spend together today. And I know that there's a lot that we have to cover. So tell me a little bit about your ministry, For the One ministry, and how long have you been doing that?
Okay, well, quick backstory on that is just how we got to it. Probably 7 years ago, I ended up looking into more closely what human trafficking looked like in the U.S. Before, I just thought it was in other countries. And so as I continued along that path, I ended up finding out so much more about what was happening, not just in the US, but then we dialed it into New Mexico, which is where I live now. And as I sat down with a person that explained all of that to me, who was already doing a street ministry at the time, she explained really what the need was. And I thought we were just going to continue doing like a philanthropic perspective, which is, more what I'm comfortable with. I'm the person that shows up and, cooks and cleans and whatever. I sure wasn't thinking we would be frontline in any way. And she mentioned that she needed a home in New Mexico for those who decided they were going to come out of the life, or those who were rescued that had nowhere to go. And so that my daughters were in that meeting with me, and we left that meeting and just went head first into beginning to research and study and prepare to open a home.
Wow.
Initially, Lisa, as you know, we were Freedom House. And that home, as we prepared over the year, we went to different trainings in Atlanta, Georgia, in Houston at Redeemed Ministries. And we went to Wellspring Living is the place in Atlanta, Georgia. And they mostly work with minors, but they went up to like 20, probably 6-year-olds survivors. And then I went twice. We were allowed to go and train and spend time at Beautiful Dreams Society, which is in Oklahoma City. And then we went to Arizona Dream Center. And so having gone through so much different training opportunities, in between everything I could get my hands on, my oldest daughter and I attended, and we got ideas how we do this house, how will our program look? Because there was a variety of things. Everybody does theirs differently, as you might imagine. So we called it Freedom House because it made sense at the time to do so. But I was downloaded at the very onset with For the One, and I call it the heartbeat of everything we do. So even though we were called Freedom House, For the One was, for me, grounding us back to for the one in front of us, for the one we could help. Because when you look at the numbers of how many people are actually trafficked around the globe, in the United States, and I will say this because you and I talked about this a moment ago, and that is that if you're interested in statistics and you're a big statistic person, I want you to know that you can go to Polaris, and they man the National Human Trafficking Hotline. You can go to their website. You can even put in your state, whatever state you're in.
Okay.
To get the numbers. Now, you need to understand that these numbers that are represented here, these are in 2019 is their most recent. They'll come out with 2020, probably in June. They'll come out with those statistics. But right now we have 2019. These are just from the phone calls, Lisa. These are just the phone calls that have been made to them, reporting it. And
known. Yeah, these are the things we know.
Right. And these are either people self-identifying as trafficked. They are family members in many cases, or somebody that thinks they've seen it can call the National Human Trafficking Hotline. But I also would want anybody watching to know, because I always try to throw this in, Lisa. Also, you need to call 911. Please don't ever try to insert yourself into a trafficking situation that might be occurring, because that person that's trafficking her, whether it be a male or a female, they consider that their property. That human that they're with, that they're controlling is considered their property, and you are at risk. You're endangering yourself. So I just like to put that in there.
Good.
So So this is just because they're our specialists right now. They're the ones who man that hotline. It gives you the tiniest little screenshot of what might be happening. But what we do is now collaborate with other organizations that have phase 3 survivors, but they don't have funding for that. So I know, Lisa, you have kids that have left the house and gone to college or did something else where they still needed your help. Well, that's what phase 3 became for us. We'll still need emergency help when, and phase 3 would mean that they're either working or in school or both. They can't, be phase 3 if they're not, and neither would your child, they're
Right.
not headed towards a, independent life, which is what we want for everyone, right? We certainly want it for our kids, but we also want it for these survivors. You don't want them to always need you right next to them, or they're not considered phase 3. Community, to our existing survivors who we've had some relapse, as you can imagine, and then come back out again and work their way back to phase 3. But you have to still be there as a community, because it takes forever to build trust anyway, because they've just been thrown under the bus for years, in most cases. But you have to still be there for them. So we have our own set of phase 3 survivors, but we also, from our own experience, but we also work with different ministries as well to make sure that they have a set amount of money when there's an emergency need. When somebody needs tires or dental work that's not, in fact, I told Lisa a minute ago, this morning, that we've got a girl right now in a dentist chair and she broke 2 teeth, and the only way she's going to be able to get those fixed is if we call and help her with that payment, and so that's the kind of thing as parents that we do. But I want to kind of, just so we get
That's very practical. I love that it's a very practical help, not just, teach them or preach at them, we're going to preach it away or pray it away or something like that. You can't, it's a dual, at least dual, if not multifaceted, call to ministry to these folks that have been trafficked.
And we're trying to display the intimacy that we want them to grow with God. This the thing is when we show up for them, when we show up for them, and we certainly know that with the way we have learned to trust God over the years and really developed our relationship with Him. And we're not gods, let me be clear, but you know what I mean. We're there for them. We tell them they're stuck with us, so we're not going anywhere. And no matter how, because they're very, they wrestle with shame, and that's a whole nother topic. But we're like, we're here. We love you, but not that we can do as much as you'd like right now, because you're not being phase 3 with your, so we do have to reground them in what our criteria is. But just telling them we love you. How can we get you back to that place? How can we be here? But that never changes how we love you. So I wanted to back to your point of left hand, right hand, and how everything works together. Lisa, we talked about how it's multifaceted. There's people who will identify who's being trafficked. We need people who will identify who the traffickers are. So we've got organizations that do that. We've got people that are, whether they're law enforcement or special ops people, that go and do the rescues and actually rescue them out, or do a sting operation. Many of our girls, several, had come from a sting operation. I do want to share here too, not to go off on a rabbit trail, but to the point of how they network them. 2 of our girls, Lisa, that we got, one was in Washington, Seattle, and was sent to us, and one was from New Mexico, so a local girl. They had the same trafficker.
Wow.
So if you were to see a road map where it was lit up, if they lit, and I do know for a fact that Deliver Fund is the organization that goes in and gives law enforcement information to go locate traffickers and to rescue the girls. They actually could show you a pegboard of the United States, and if they were to choose a color for a trafficker or a trafficking ring, it would, like if it was yellow, for example,
Right.
that would show you where all that yellow person, which we know who it is, where he all commonly traffics his girls, and somebody else might be orange or red, like my highlighters, for example, where they could actually identify these groups where they're following the leads, and they get them, caught, get that, because law enforcement doesn't have the money to be doing that. So this particular organization does that.
Wow.
People go and rescue them. Then you have the next leg of it, or the third hand, is programs and resources. So there's people that are boots on the ground with residential, outpatient. A lot of people aren't ready to go into a residential program once they come out. It's just terrifying for them. So, you still need resources. So counseling and housing, because of the addiction, there's so much dental work, huge, and meth addiction is just huge.
Right.
Huge dental issues. And then we still need to work on awareness all the time. And so that actually led us to two folds of what, once we closed the house, Lisa, I could spend a lot more time working on spreading awareness, because I wasn't on call 24 hours a day anymore. And so we had a group of women that I trained and prepared to do awareness presentations. Well, that was frustrating. The reason why is a lot of people are afraid to find out what's going on, and just overwhelmed by the conversation.
It is sometimes. I think people get overwhelmed. I know I've had conversations with friends and lots of people who love God and are active in ministry, but some of the approach that I hear is it seems so overwhelming that I just can't do anything. It feels like I would be doing, nothing. I'm sorry, I've got something flying around here. And so if I do something, it's going to feel like a drop in the bucket, and so then therefore I do nothing. Well, to me, what a bunch of crap. I don't know what else to say. I'm sorry. But is that not just like the enemy to keep me overwhelmed? And we could go off on lots of rabbit trails for this. But if there is anything right now that I know that the Lord is impressing me with, is that those days are over. We cannot sit with our hands folded in our lap or our heads in the sand about things anymore. He calls us to expose truth, right? With the truth. Expose lies with his truth. And, it's just, we can't sit back and allow ourselves, or just to go, because, and here's my example, is like when I see, and this is definitely not even near that, but when I see a commercial for something that is, something that I get overwhelmed by, I change the channel. I quickly change the channel, whether that's children, dogs, animals being mistreated, listening to statistics about trafficking, or any of those things that are just, that hurt my heart. My instinct, my natural, not my spiritual, but my natural instinct is to go, oh, I can't see that right now. I don't want to hear about that right now. I can't go there, and so we have to push through that, push that aside, and realize that is let's talk about what that is. How do we get past that?
Well, for the one though, for me, that is like this beacon of light to me that laser focuses me. So I don't try to deny the fact that I can't possibly help all those people, but it keeps me from being overwhelmed and recognizing that it's just the ones that he sends to me, or, sends me to, whatever the case may be. I think that makes it such a more doable, Lisa, when you focus on it that way, it's like you said, in good example, the dog commercial, where you're just going, oh my gosh, I just can't, but this is honestly, if you were in a position where you saw such a thing happening, you could do something.
Yeah.
So
it's a changing of our mindset to, I don't want to see that, to, but what can I do? And even though it may be, it may seem like my piece is not going to make a difference, that is a lie. That is a lie. And there are people who are called and that need to step forward, and either who can help financially. It could be boots on the ground. It could be, people, and there's lots of different facets to just because, and just like there are tons of different facets to the trafficking networking, the people who they know, the all those things that are behind the scenes that are happening to keep that network going and shifting. And in secret, there has to be just as many different avenues, or just as many, and so all of those different pieces working together for the good need to step into place. And that's what, to me, I'm hoping comes from even this time together, is, being able to expose the need, first of all, but also encourage people who hear this to step out, step forward, and move, take action.
I love that.
There's lots of different kinds of actions that they could take, right?
There is. And what this has led us to, so if it was For the One turned into officially Freedom House into For the One, and then we do the phase 3 still. I already talked about that. We're still working on that. That's one segment, but we now are presenting this new campaign to the strategy point. So there's all these strategies for evil, and God's like, we have all these strategies for what my plan is.
That's right.
Eternity. Here's the rescue of, like, the long-term rescue. Here's bringing them into freedom. And for us, it's before it happens. That's my whole mindset. And I call them bubbles, where I'll be in worship or something, and this idea will come to me, and I just believe it's the Lord, where he's like, in every case of trafficking, these people are vulnerable, and there's a plethora, like so many reasons, gullible, and people that are gullible, naive, but certainly a history of sexual, physical, emotional, verbal violence is a huge, homelessness, our teen runaways. There's so many different care. We see quite a bit of that happening for people through the foster care system. So, but in every case, even if 6-month-old, so they're trafficked because, or they're part of child abuse, which is the pornography side of that. They're actually not calling that child pornography anymore. It's being renamed as child sex abuse, because pornography implies any kind of an option on their part. So law enforcement is beginning to change that. Our Attorney General's office is calling it child sex abuse now, instead of child pornography. I just want to say that real quick.
Good to know.
Whether they're kidnapped, whether a family member is trafficked, they're always vulnerable. So what we're doing now For the One is presenting this Vulnerable No More campaign, which, Lisa, you and I have talked about this a lot, and it is, yes, it's awareness, but it is active, like just an action-based prevention campaign, and we are doing it in 2-hour segments, going into venues. We're live now. Last year in 2020, I told you we recorded because our hands were tied and I was so antsy. And so we ended up recording like 10-minute, 15-minute YouTube videos. If you put in as your search Vulnerable No More, there are videos on there that help you understand the strategy of traffickers, recruiters, groomers. What does it look like? What does it
Mhm.
sound? So that in the way that the DARE campaign years ago, the prevention campaign for drugs, and then they turned into Keeping It Real. I researched them and we used their proven methods with regards to, because we don't have proof of concept right now, Lisa,
Yet.
because it's,
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
we did have proof of concept and proven methods. And so we picked up some of their core thoughts and methods, and we've applied them to this event that we're starting.
Awesome.
June 18th is our first event. It will be live and it will be virtual for anybody that cares to be part of that. It's I've sent it out to everybody I know across the United States, and I told Lisa this morning, and in Ghana, Africa,
Wow.
we are spreading this word. We have 3 events planned right now, but the first one is June 18th.
Okay.
And Lisa, maybe you can tell them how they could.
Yes. Well, I'm going to have it posted here. It'll be posted right here and on this screen when we, I will be sure and add that here to our video, and including with the QR code that you can, all they have to do is click on, and get more information, take a picture of it with their phone, whatever they want to do. But, and I'll have the vulnerablenomore.org website. And I think this is a very hands-on, but tell me why is this, who is your target that you want to come? Who needs to show up for this particular event, Vulnerable No More event?
Okay, so our biggest target audience, the ones, okay, so DARE went to middle school and high school. So if we're looking in terms of that, the actual target are the 12 to 25 and 30 year olds. The reason why is twofold. One, they're much more easy to control at those ages. At 25, the frontal lobe develops, that part of the brain. They don't know that. There's not somebody teaching that. They're just pimps that they see that it makes them more vulnerable.
Mhm.
So they're targeting that age group. So we are targeting that age group. And then also traffickers know they make the most money with the younger they get them. And then really pretty much up to 25 and 30. That's their optimal. So even if it was a car, and I hate to use this example, but certain cars are more valuable. Certain aged cars within
Mhm.
this, even a used one is worth this much. It's not to be callous. That is the way they think about this. You need to
It's a
just
commodity. Mhm.
yeah, traffickers think in terms, they think they're business people. Recruiters think they're business people. But anyway, that is our target audience, and then everyone. So at home, at live stream or watch parties, we're asking people to create watch parties. They can do groups of whomever. At the event itself, we're doing females 12 to 100 years old. And we need everybody at the table because we need people like you and I, who are, I'm a tutu, I'm a grandmother, my kids were all right in that target age when I first found out about trafficking. So I needed to know. But more important, we absolutely need that age group, either live streaming or in an event in person, which down the road, just as a nod to that, we are going to develop curriculum that can go out into churches, communities. If people want to use what we've used so far, make it their own,
Mhm.
and develop how they want it to look. We've also considered, and we'll just send it out. Everybody needs to hear this.
That's awesome.
We need men involved. We just honestly, because of the things we need to talk about, which I'm keeping it PG 13, because it's 12 and up. So
Right.
it's telling them the truth, still telling our young people. What's the difference, for example, between a trafficker and a recruiter, and how somebody that's really interested in you would talk?
Mhm.
There's 4 segments. Let's just talk about that for a second. From the videos I mentioned, we pulled out 4 segments. The first one is Human Trafficking 101, but it's explaining what a recruiter, groomer, and a trafficker are, what their job descriptions are. And then Know Your Enemy is going to teach us how they actually talk. She calls it a hook point. What's the hook point that they throw out at people, and they just throw it and throw it like fly fishing until they get somebody to bite? That's identified. And then her end segment is, so what if somebody's really trying to just ask you out? You don't want to be terrified of every person that comes across your, in front of you.
Right.
I think that's such a healthy balance, is to make sure we're empowering these young people with information so they're not living in fear, because that's not what we want either, but they're empowered to know the difference. And then the third segment is a mother and a daughter. She's the mother of 10, and her daughter's going to be, and they did 2 of our segments as well. And it's, you teach people how to do, and they're going to talk about social media, and where to draw, what is a boundary, how to draw a boundary. They're going to explain, one of these segments will be sex extortion, where they talk about what that is. And then our 4th person is going to talk about proceed with caution. And she did a segment for us. She's a self-defense instructor, but she talks a lot about using your voice. How do we use our voice? How do we put distance between us and that other person? What's our way out if we
That's
find
great. But I think
relationship?
that's an immediate defense. I
Right.
think that's amazing. That's amazing.
And we're still in our lane. So if this was our lane, I always tell people, we're in our sex trafficking lane, but we're going to scoop in people, and frankly, even some adults. I know some grown-up women that need to hear this really badly. But we're being like recognizing narcissism, basically. So we're going to affect, I think, some future domestic relationships, narcissistic relationships, just controlling relationships. So if human trafficking were to happen, in the middle of this that much, we're going to have these other layers. God's not going to waste a minute. He's going to scoop in these, like, I can so be a warrior. I can so fight for myself. I have a choice. I am empowered to make a decision before it happens. That's what we want to pour into everybody. I think people will be left with a feeling of like, yes, some God confidence, but it's not just strictly a Christian, yes, my testimony includes that. Lisa knows it. But so I can't talk about this without talking to my cure for the cancer that was in my life. I got born again. But we want to put, these will be practical things that'll be like, I see what you're doing, see what you're doing. I will not fall for that, not one time. And so that's what we're doing. And anybody watching can do. You can share the information about this event to everybody. That's what we're asking. Put it on your social media. Share it with those that I could never reach, because there's people that you talk to that I don't know. Send it to them, and anybody belongs on live stream. Anybody. If we're doing an event, of course, that's close to you or that you could come for, you are always invited to that. But we've made it so God has opened up this door.
That's right.
I'm so nervous about doing live streams, but I'm because we're gonna do it for the one. We're gonna do it for the one that is watching, for the one in our life that we can tell about this and get this information to, and invite them to this live stream event. Be sure you make the adjustment for the time whenever you see it. I mean, we do put, and you'll see it, it says Mountain Standard Time on here.
Right.
But they have to make the adjustments so they know. I've sent it to churches, on the East Coast that I have connections with, and people in the Dallas Metroplex, to say, oh, get it to your young people, your young adults. And then we're doing an after action, Lisa. I don't know if I've told you, it's called Strong One. Oh, yes, I have. Duh.
Yes. Yeah. I'm excited about that part. That's to me, it's just a complete, it's like the closure on it, but not really, but it is a whole step forward. So talk about Strong One.
Just real quick, and then I want you to get back to your day, and these wonderful people that are watching. Strong One, we felt like we didn't want this to be like a Easter and Christmas Christian event where you get some great things, but you just move forward. And people can leave if they're anti doing next step, because that will be very Christian. These 4 segments that we're going to do is a follow-up action. We're calling it an after action. And it is leaving with the tools you have, and maybe just using those if you want, or onto this Zoom community that we're doing. And we're going to have, and it's called Strong One, I mentioned. We'll have a group of mid-schoolers that can do a Zoom. We'll have a group of high school females that can do a Zoom, and then college and education group, and then young adults. And that's right now, we carved it off into those groups. I'll have an adult facilitator, which will lead each of these classes, and that will start after, and everybody has to have attended the event to join that at all. And we'll have people that grew up in the church,
Right.
so, and that's to tie a bow on. If you don't renew your mind moving forward, then you just fall vulnerable again all the time.
I think
So,
those are all great topics.
A couple of younger interns will be layered in theoretically in every group to be conversation, like part of the chat. There'll be conversation starters that maybe they would say, well, when I was a freshman, this actually happened, and I did this. I had have done that in hindsight. So anyway, but that's a lot of information, I know, Lisa, but
no, I think it's all really important that we that we address this. I wanted, my hope is that we've given now a lot of information, like you said, but enough information to know there is a place for anyone at any level. And I'm going to just, and I'm believing that there are going to be more events like this, that there are going to be churches who want to get this program plugged into their own church, there are going to be other big events for, large venues to continue to, not make the success factor, but to bring the success that God wants to do. So I want us to, I'm going to, again, I'll put all that information out there. There's a lot more that we could talk about, and I know we need to wrap it up today, but I really feel, as we've been talking, I made a note earlier that there's a lot of people who deal with shame. You brought that up earlier. That's such a common thing that keeps us. So if you're feeling right now, if you're feeling a shame because of, stuff that's happened in your past, maybe that could be an indicator that there's still some work that God wants to do. He does not want us to stay in that shame, right? He wants us to be completely free in those areas. And so I just want to speak to that person who feels like there is a lot of shame that they're dealing with, that might be preventing them from becoming involved in this. And what God can create out of that is when he sets us free from that shame and we agree with him about whatever he's talking to us about, then the cool part is that then we can, my testimony becomes my message and will help to set other people free, and that's what real freedom from that looks like. And so if we take a step today toward getting involved in this, I might find some freedom for myself and help others at the same time. And how cool would that be? I mean, that's just how God is, right? He wants to, it's his goodness, it's his kindness that leads us. And even as a victim, there's such a lock in on that shame that, the enemy wants to use that to keep us locked in, and feel like we can't change, we can't push through, we can't get freedom. But that is a lie. That is a total lie. So I just really felt like I needed to speak that and to share that today for somebody who's listening, who might have found this video by chance, please get connected. You can message me. You can also go on to the website and get some more information about this event. Maybe God is calling some of us to get involved from a support side, be financially helpful, if you can. And there's a lot of different things that we can do that will make a difference, but we have to take action.
Oh, that's so good, Lisa. I love every bit of what you just said. And
Mm.
my testimony, they don't, and there's not time for that. But I will just say one of the biggest, most helpful things was when, I think it's Romans 8, and I can't think of the chapter exactly, maybe 11. There's therefore now no condemnation.
Mm.
So when I had that coming at me, because I had so much shame, from abuse in my past, and everything. And it's crazy because it's stuff that happened to me, that just caused me to be so wild, actually.
Mhm.
But anyway, that we don't get trapped in condemnation, because the enemy would love to steal your victory, your freedom, and that's, I sit here
Mhm.
today, having been through that, didn't get saved till I was 20. I'm 61 now. And but I've had that many years of just free life, and I fought for it. And I want anybody there that is stuck in shame for any reason, you start using those scriptures like medicine. You apply them over your life, and I'm telling you what, my sister says, you just make the enemy run around with his underwear on his head, because you take every bit that was meant for evil for good. You're able to
Absolutely.
minister like Lisa. I know she talks to so many people and helps so many. You're able to use that testimony in a way that it's like you too can have victory and live free and help other people. And talking about it honestly is part of what's brought me to where I am today. God being able to use me, so
Mhm.
thank you for saying that, Lisa. That was
Yeah.
so good.
Absolutely. It would be, like for me, I feel such an urgency to proclaim, the Lord gave me that word a couple of years ago now, and to use my voice to continually proclaim freedom in lots of different places, in lots of different ways, but also to come beside and promote what others are doing. Partner with Vulnerable No More, to partner with other great things that God is doing that come under that calling to proclaim freedom, right? And so that's what Good News Chat is doing today. And Toya, I want to thank you. I'm just so thankful that God brought us together many years ago in whole other life. And God has an amazing way. I have always just felt such a tie. I don't know what we would call it, a bond that God has created between us, and my sister bond, and in love and in faith, to have both of those things going. But it's been a long time since we've actually been face to face, but maybe soon. I will be hopefully able to join you for an event. For sure, I'll be on the live stream, and but maybe one of these days, in Jesus' name, you're going to come to Dallas or Fort Worth, even better, and bring an event here, and or
Y'all just hook me up.
okay,
Also,
exactly.
and just quickly, and I'll tie a bow on my part, is just, we do believe part of this would be that we could go and do an event at a church venue, most likely, with their volunteer team, because we can't, just don't see us
Can't bring
traveling.
everybody in a truck. Yeah.
But it's volunteer teams, and we're using ours, of course, here locally. But anyway, so yes, that's speak it out, girl.
That's right.
We do want to do that. And for the 1.1 would be the link that would get you to all this. You can navigate, get to the things I told you on Zoom, YouTube,
live stream.
Yeah, you can connect with me then, email us. I'll be happy to talk to anybody anytime. So.
That'd be awesome. Again, thank you for today, spending time with us, talking about this so needed. And we're just going to proclaim that that God is going to use this time, use this message today to reach someone somewhere for that one, in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Thank you, girl. I appreciate you, and we'll talk soon. Hey, thanks for watching today. Be sure you check out For the One on YouTube so that you can see all of the video series that Toya mentioned today. See you soon.